Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As the historic impeachment trial of President Donald Trump continues this week, explosive new revelations about Trump's decision to freeze aid to Ukraine emerged Sunday. The New York Times reports former National Security Advisor John Bolton writes in his forthcoming book that Trump personally told him in August that he wanted to continue withholding nearly $400 million in security aid until Ukraine turned over materials related to former Vice President Joe Biden and supporters of Hillary Clinton in Ukraine. The reports are based on a leaked manuscript of Bolton's book. Trump took to Twitter shortly after midnight Monday to deny the claims, writing, quote, "I never told John Bolton that the aid to Ukraine was tied to investigations into Democrats, including the Bidens. In fact, he never complained about this at the time of his very public termination. If John Bolton said this, it was only to sell a book," Trump tweeted. This comes as Trump's defense team is resuming their opening arguments today after using just 2 hours of their allotted 24 hours on Saturday. White House counsel Pat Cipollone argued Trump's July phone call with the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, did not explicitly tie aid to the investigations and accused Democrats of trying to, quote, overturn the results of the last election. This is Trump's longtime personal lawyer, Jay Sekulow, speaking on the Senate floor Saturday.
We really intend to show over the next several days that the evidence is actually really overwhelming, that the president did nothing wrong. This case is really not about presidential wrongdoing. This entire impeachment process is about the House manager's insistence that they are able to read everybody's thoughts, they can read everybody's intention, even when the principal speakers, the witnesses themselves, insist that those interpretations are wrong.
Senators are preparing to vote this week on whether new evidence and witnesses can be introduced in Trump's Senate impeachment trial. 4 Republicans would need to side with Democrats and vote in favor of the move. We'll have more on the impeachment trial after headlines with Mother Jones reporter Dan Friedman. The coronavirus outbreak continues to spread, with the death toll now rising to at least 81 people in China. Nearly 60 million people are now on partial or full lockdown. Entire cities have been essentially quarantined, with residents unable to travel outside of a government-designated area. The mayor and top government officials in the city of Wuhan, which is at the center of the outbreak, have offered to resign in the face of criticism that the early response to the outbreak was too slow. Wuhan is now attempting to build a 1,000-bed hospital in just 10 days to treat infected patients. Hong Kong has shut down schools for several weeks. Nearly 3,000 cases of the disease have been identified around the world, though the number is expected to rise. 5 cases have been confirmed in the United States. The Pentagon said Friday 34 American military members sustained traumatic brain injuries from Iranian airstrikes on the Al-Assad air base in Iraq earlier this month. President Trump had previously said no American troops were injured in the attack, which came in response to the targeted U.S. killing of top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Trump dismissed concerns about the troops' well-being last week, saying he thought their injuries were headaches and were not very serious. Paul Rieckhoff, the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, called out the misinformation about the troops' injuries, tweeting, "This is a big deal. The American people must be able to trust the government to share information about our sons and daughters in harm's way. Nothing is more serious and sacred," Rieckhoff said. In Iraq, security forces and unidentified gunmen attacked anti-government protesters over the weekend, reportedly killing 12 people and burning protest camps in Baghdad and the southern city of Nasiriyah.
Unidentified men came from that direction in 4 large vehicles and 2 other cars and started firing randomly at protesters. I was in my car and my son was sitting beside me. The bullets hit the car, came through the car's windshield, out through the rear glass.
Up to 600 protesters have been killed since the demonstrations erupted in Iraq in October. Protesters say the latest crackdown came after popular Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr announced Friday he would no longer support the anti-government demonstrations. Earlier on Friday, 200,000 people took part in a march in Baghdad supported by al-Sadr, demanding the U.S. withdraw troops from Iraq following the assassination of General Soleimani at Baghdad International Airport. In Turkey, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake has killed at least 38 people and injured at least 1,600 others. The powerful quake hit the eastern province of Elazig on Friday, trapping scores of people and collapsing at least 76 buildings. Over 40 people have been rescued from the rubble, including a 2-year-old girl. Tremors could be felt as far as Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Ugandan climate activist Vanessa Nakata is speaking out against racism in the media after she was cropped out of a photo featuring herself and other prominent climate activists in Davos, Switzerland. The other young activists were white and included Greta Thunberg. The Associated Press, which published the cropped photo, said the photographer cut Nakata out of it because he thought the building behind her was distracting. Vanessa Nakata said the move, quote, erased a continent. This is Nakata speaking on social media.
This is the first time in my life that I understood the definition of the word racism. Africa is the least emitter of carbons, but we are the most affected by the climate crisis. But you erasing our voices won't change anything.
To see our interview with Vanessa Nakata at last month's UN Climate Summit in Madrid, go to democracynow.org. President Trump became the first sitting president to attend and address the anti-abortion March for Life march in Washington, D.C. Friday. He told supporters, quote, unborn children have never had a stronger defender in the White House, unquote, as he touted his judicial appointments and slammed Democrats, falsely accusing Virginia Governor Ralph Northam of supporting a bill that would execute babies after birth. Also on Friday, the Trump administration threatened to cut off federal funding for some health programs in California unless the state ends its requirement that private health insurers cover abortion. California Governor Gavin Newsom said the state would not change its policy. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is coming under fire for comparing the Trump administration's fight to ban abortion to the fight to end slavery. The Education Secretary said, quote, President Lincoln, too, contended with the pro-choice arguments of his day. They suggested a state's choice to be slave or to be free had no moral question in it. President Lincoln reminded those pro-choicers that a vast portion of the American people look upon it as a vast moral evil, unquote. Betsy DeVos made the comments at an event last week for Colorado Christian University held at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. Massachusetts Congressmember Ayanna Pressley tweeted in response, quote, as a black woman in the chair of the Abortion Access Task Force, I invite you to come by the Hill and say this to my face. Would welcome the opportunity to educate you, she said, addressing the Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos. In Boston, the founder of Inosys Therapeutics has been sentenced to 5.5 years in prison in a landmark case for the opioid crisis. John Kapoor and 4 other executives were convicted last May of a criminal conspiracy to bribe doctors to prescribe a highly addictive fentanyl spray to patients who didn't need it. One of the defendants allegedly gave a lap dance to a doctor at a company event in order to persuade him to prescribe the drug. Legal experts say the sentencing should be a warning to other drug company executives who've engaged in deceptive marketing practices and other schemes to push opioids. In New York City, a fire has destroyed tens of thousands of art pieces and historical material belonging to the Museum of Chinese in America. The fire erupted Thursday night on the eve of Lunar New Year and tore through the archives of the iconic Chinatown Museum, which contained one-of-a-kind documents dating back to the 1800s, chronicling the history of Chinese migration to the United States. In Texas, an explosion in an industrial plant early Friday morning killed 2 people, damaged over 200 homes northwest of Houston. Authorities are investigating the cause of the blast at the Watson grinding and manufacturing plant. 2 workers of the company were killed in the explosion, which was so powerful it shattered windows and homes up to a half-mile away. And basketball superstar Kobe Bryant died Sunday in a helicopter crash in Los Angeles at the age of 41. The crash killed all 9 people on board, including Kobe Bryant's 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, or Gigi, beloved college baseball coach John Altobelli and his wife, Kerry, and their 13-year-old daughter, Alyssa. Officials say the cause of the crash is being investigated but could take months to determine. Bryant won 5 NBA championships, 2 Olympic gold medals, and was crowned an All-Star 18 times. He played for the LA Lakers for 20 years before retiring in 2016. He was also known for being an ardent supporter of women's basketball. His daughter, Gianna, reportedly hoped to one day play for the University of Connecticut women's basketball team. Tributes continue to pour in on social media from fans, athletes, and other public figures. Musicians Alicia Keys, Lizzo, Run DMC, and others remembered Bryant at the Grammys in Los Angeles Sunday night, and thousands gathered outside the Staples Center overnight to mourn his passing. But some are also calling on the media and supporters not to forget a sexual assault allegation from early in his career. In 2003, a 19-year-old hotel worker where Bryant was staying in Colorado accused him of rape. Bryant denied the charge, saying they had a consensual sexual encounter. The case was dropped after the woman decided not to testify, and a civil suit was settled out of court. Many have called out his accuser's treatment by the media and Bryant's defense team. The sexual assault allegations resurfaced in 2018 when his film Dear Basketball won an Oscar for Best Animated Short at the 2018 Academy Awards. We'll have more on Kobe Bryant later in the broadcast with author and sports journalist Dave Zirin. And as well, those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.